If you're anything like me, then you probably have way more things that you want to do than you have time to do. And especially if you are working on growing your own business, then you probably wonder what you could possibly do to help that happen more quickly, both so that you can get to having a successful business more quickly, and also so that you can spend less time on it every single day and start to really enjoy the benefits of being your own boss before you even necessarily get to the point where you have a big successful business. I remember early on when I was trying to grow my own business, I felt like I just was being so inefficient. I was spending so much time every single day trying to grow my business and seeing very little results. So in today's video, I want to share with you 3 of my top tips for planning a productive workday so that you can get a whole lot more done in a whole lot less time. So the first thing we need to talk about is what it really means to be productive, because a lot of the time we feel productive when we are just being plain old busy, when we are doing a lot. But really productive means that we are producing something. And so the first thing you have to think about if you want to be more productive is, what are you trying to produce? Maybe you're trying to produce a YouTube video or a blog post, or maybe you're trying to produce a proposal that you're going to send to a client, or maybe you're trying to produce new leads for your business, or something completely different. But what are you actually trying to produce? You'll be the most productive if you have a specific thing in mind you're trying to create, and at the end of your workday you can see that you have in fact created that. Once you know what you are trying to produce, the next thing you'll want to think about is, what are the top 3 things that I could do that would make the most progress with this project? What are the top 3 things I could do that would have the biggest impact on the results that I get or on my goal? A lot of people find that the easiest way to think about that. Like, what is my goal? Okay, what are the top 3 things I can do to make progress on my goal? Obviously, there's a million different things you could do, right? But some of them are going to have a much bigger impact on the results you create, a much bigger impact on your success, a much bigger impact on how much progress you're able to make today. So what are those top 3 things? It's totally okay to start by making a longer, messier list, kind of brainstorm all the different things you could do, and then narrow it down, like what 3 things are going to have that biggest impact. And then put those 3 things on your to-do list for today and do them first. I know you probably won't want to. I never want to. I always want to leave them to last. I want to do all the easy work first. And there's a time and a place for that. You know, sometimes you have a hard time getting started with your day and it's good to check off some easy things first. But really, if you want to make the biggest progress, if you want to be the most efficient and have the most productive day possible, then you do want to start with those top 3 things, because if you leave them till later in the day, there's a high probability you won't have time to do them, because they're probably things that take a little bit more time and you're going to have less time later on in the day. And also you might lose motivation as you've been working. You might feel like, well, I already did a lot of other things, so I'll just leave those things till tomorrow. Or you might just plain old get tired. So if you want to be the most productive, do those top 3 things first. My next tip is a bit of a mindset shift. So here's how I used to think about work. I felt like I had all these things I had to do and a certain amount of time I wanted to work each day, but there were things that I had to get done. And so I just thought, well, I'll just work until I get these things done. And I'll work as long as I need to, but I'll try to motivate myself to work faster by saying that I can stop working as soon as I get through my to-do list. And of course, there is some sense in that. You know, sometimes that can be motivating. But I found that while maybe it was motivating in some ways, it was also very demotivating and made me work a lot slower, because I felt so overwhelmed by all these things that I was telling myself I had to do. And so ultimately my work ended up taking longer, and I had a much worse work-life balance because I would work for a lot longer than I said I was going to or said I wanted to, because I felt like I had to check off all those things off my to-do list. So the mental shift that I made that has helped so much is, now instead of saying I'll work until I get all of this work done, now I say I'm going to work for this amount of time and I'll get as much done in that amount of time as I can, but at the end of that time, I'm going to stop working. And the reason why this was so helpful to me was because it made my work so much less overwhelming. I knew that at the end of those 4 or 6 or 8 hours, I was going to clock out. I was going to stop. I was going to go back to my family, go get to do something enjoyable, and get to stop working. And that allows me to feel a lot more relaxed and less overwhelmed about my work. And so I actually end up working a lot faster and also enjoying my work a lot more. And then my final tip for you might sound like it has nothing to do with productivity or getting more done in less time, but it does. And it is to ask for help. As I mentioned earlier on in this video, when I was at those beginning stages of running my business, trying to grow my business, I felt like I spent so much time trying to get things done and my progress was so slow. I especially remember struggling so much with tech things, not because I'm not a tech savvy person, but there is just so many questions, such a steep learning curve when it comes to especially using different software to run an online business. And so every time I wanted to do anything, set up any new little system in my business, I would just find myself spending hours and hours and hours Googling and troubleshooting and trying to make it work. And that was why my work was so inefficient, because I would run into so many little problems throughout it. The thing that finally made a difference and finally allowed me to work a lot more efficiently and see a lot more progress a lot more quickly was when I joined some groups. When I got into some mastermind groups and I joined some communities of entrepreneurs like myself. And now, instead of having to spend hours Googling, a lot of the time I could just ask the group, hey, does anyone know how to solve this problem? Or, hey, I'm trying to accomplish this. Does anyone know how to do that? And a lot of the time I would get an answer within a few minutes, or, maybe I just asked the question and then a few hours later I'd go back and check and there would be an answer. And so I was able to go and work on other things. And not only did this mean that I got to save all that time Googling, which, I'm a big fan of Googling. I've learned so much just from Googling, and really that's how I've figured out how to build most of my business. But a lot of the time it is such a shortcut to just ask someone who has already done what you are trying to do, already overcome whatever the challenge is that is slowing you down. Well, there you have it. Those are some of my top tips for planning a productive workday. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a like and leave a comment down below to tell me which of those tips you found most helpful, or to share your top productivity tips. I always love learning new tips for being more productive and more efficient and getting more done in less time. And obviously everyone who's watching this video does as well, so I'm sure that they would love to hear your advice as well. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, then consider subscribing. My name is Gillian Perkins, and I make a new video every single week here on YouTube all about how to work for yourself and successfully build six-figure online businesses. So if that's something that you're interested in learning more about, then we'd love to have you join the community. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. I love you, and I'll see you next time.